Hello and welcome back to Radio Free Urbanism, a podcast about urbanism and stuff. Hey, that was pretty good.
There we go. We did a good effort there.
Today we're going to be talking about New York's 10 most dangerous drivers, Paris' top-ranked safety for children on bikes, which is incredible, and also a new extension into Redmond on Link LRT. And I have to introduce, you know him, you love him, Ethan Myers.
Welcome back, everybody. It's good to be here on Radio Free Urbanism, the podcast about urbanism and stuff.
And we also have Sully Israel. Welcome back to the show.
Bringing you the and stuff. Here I am.
Yeah. We've got lots of stuff today. So why don't we just kick it off? You got the first story here, Sully, so take it away.
Yeah, so I saw this, as I often get my stories, posted on LinkedIn. And it's kind of made me laugh, maybe smile, but ironically. But basically, an analysis was done of the tickets being given out to people in New York for speeding. And it turns out, I'm going to share my screen so that you guys can see the fabulous map that they made in this article here. And I will do this window. Okay, so as you can see here, it turns out there are 10 people who are super speeders. And they are constantly getting tickets. And I love how the article categorizes them by their car color and type. Like, these are the people you need to look out for. This black 2023 Audi A6 is the number one super speeder. And what's interesting is you can see where this person lives, which is down here, I guess, in the southern part of Brooklyn. I think I've mentioned this before on the show. I've actually never been to New York, but I know it very well because who doesn't, right? But yeah, like this guy, he got 73 tickets on one specific intersection of Ocean Parkway in a year. And he, is paying hundreds of dollars and just doesn't care. And then, of course,
they're paying the tickets?
Yeah. Well, at least some of them are, and they're being charged, I guess you could say. But yeah, so the analysis is from 2024, and it's open data. And of course, what's fun to do with this map is to look at what neighborhoods these people speed in, and then try and see if they go to different parts of the city and speed there too. So, obviously, this orange person likes to... Orange man bad. No, this orange person likes to hop over to Manhattan sometimes and speed over there also. But actually, this reminded me of, Nick, the short that you came out with this week with that minivan.
I had one?
Hopping.
Oh,
stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even like a block away, you could still see them kind of like misbehaving.
Yeah.
So
this is crazy. So I thought the case would be they have they're suspicious of this one particular Audi and they've caught it so many times and they've changed the plates. No, it's the same license plate. The person's just driving around recklessly. 563 tickets in a year. I've gotten one ticket in my entire life. And I swear to this one day, it wasn't my fault. Got in a crash. The lady ran a red light, but because I was turning, it was my fault. So, this is crazy. That is so many tickets. And that's just top guy.
It's also crazy that you can see number 2 is 100% a commuter.
Yeah,
they
just
do
going
not
down.
live in New York. Yeah, they're commuting to Lower Manhattan.
You see from the Bronx down all the way to the tip of Manhattan.
And why are they driving in? Who would want to do that?
I mean, it's gotten better a little bit, right? With the congestion pricing, at least.
That's true.
So they can afford these tickets. They can afford the congestion pricing.
That actually probably means that they can speed more. So yeah, this Mercedes-Benz guy got 474 speeding tickets in a year. But yeah, he's the guy who goes up and down, it looks like.
Wow. I wonder if some of these people are those folks who are on social media, showing off speeding and stuff. Because I remember there's this infamous video that I saw. It was in Times Square, and I think it was a Mercedes AMG saloon car, sedan or whatever, one of those big powerful Mercedes cars. And the police were like, okay, stop, and the driver just full on hammered it and pushed the cop out of the way and sped off. And I'm like, how do you get away in Manhattan? This is pre-congestion pricing. How do you get away in a car chase in Manhattan? That seems insane. Right. You just get stuck in traffic.
It's got to be the slowest car chase of all time.
The most unrealistic things about action movies. Okay, this is actually a thing in movies in general. I think I mentioned this before on a different show, but they love to film in these interesting historic locations, especially action movies, in the heart of Rome or in the heart of New York, to have a car chase. But those are also like the worst places that you would have a car chase in real life. You would just immediately get stuck behind a delivery truck or something. The best place to have a car chase would be like in Orange County, which is where I constantly see car chases actually on the news. Because I mean, the whole thing is post-war, wide streets and all that. So yeah, but I guess congestion pricing might have the weird reverse effect that these guys might have more room to speed.
It's true. Like that's what we saw during COVID, right? Was that all this road space opened up and people ended up speeding, and actually in some cases increased deaths on the roads because speed kills, as much as people don't like to mention that. They're like, oh, it's not the speed, it's the acceleration of stopping or whatever, or it's inattentive. Anyway, speed's dangerous. We know that, guys.
Yeah, it is.
This is from Streets Blog, and there's this thing down here. If you could scroll down there, Sully, so people can see it.
This thing?
Yeah. This here. Drivers speed through New York City school zones with no limits. This is coming from April. So in 2024, around 2 million drivers sped through school zones in New York City, racking up nearly 5 million violations. And that is a representation there, all these dots on the screen, a sample of all these drivers. Each driver is depicted as a circle. So there's a few big circles in there, but there's a really big circle there.
You got public enemy number one up there.
Oh my God. And that's
$27,000.
That's the top. That's the one you mentioned. That's the Audi. That's that top.
Look, guys, this is his plate ID. It's right here.
Yeah.
So wait, this is not a geographic representation though, because obviously
no.
Yeah, this is just like
it's like Jackson Pollock painting that they're just like randomly dispersed, I believe. Yeah.
That would be. Oh, and by the way, I should have done my homework because the question that you asked earlier, the answer is right here. 3 have paid off all their fines, ranging from $17,000 to $45,000.
Wow.
Another 7 have simply ignored the fines and owe the city a combined total of $200,000, which honestly doesn't seem like enough.
Yeah, like that's the thing I really don't like about the whole arguments against automated enforcement about how, oh, well, you can't tell who was driving the car. When it happens over and over and over again, it's like, okay, it doesn't matter anymore. Also, the fines are too low. You're right, Silly. They should be tied to income or at least wealth or something like that.
Finland does that, and it's incredibly effective at actually, deterring people from speeding on their roads.
Finland, you said?
Finland, yeah. They tie speeding tickets to income or traffic violations to income.
I think there was an NHL player.
Is there any chance that are there more poor people speeding, or like has it had any weird effect, or no? It's just
I haven't heard of any weird effect like that. Just because I mean, like, I just haven't heard from it. I've just heard that it's been pretty effective at getting higher income people to stop speeding. But I mean,
here's a story. This is topical. NHL playoffs are going on right now, except this player. He plays for the Philadelphia Flyers, who are not in the playoffs. But Rasmus Ristolainen, his defenseman, was recently fined just north of 120,000. Sorry, I was about to say 120 euros. 120,000 euros, going twice the speed limit in his hometown of Turku, Finland. That is crazy. That's about $176,000 Canadian or $135,000 USD. For going double the speed limit, which is kind of fair. I mean, double the speed limit, bro. What are you doing? That's crazy, but he can afford it, I'm sure. But wow, that'll get people to think twice about going over the speed limit, I think.
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking about this. One of my neighbors was really annoyed that my street is about 1.5 lanes wide. It wouldn't be allowed to be built today, but it's quite old in Santa Barbara. And people speed on it anyway. Like the narrow width isn't enough actually to stop people from speeding because it's low traffic. The street doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
And so he actually bought plastic speed bumps online that were like $15 and drilled them into the road.
I love it.
Yeah. And it lasted for 2 weeks, and he put signage too. So he didn't want to destroy people's cars. He put signage saying speed bumps ahead. And someone complained. Because I know that the city departments never drive down my street. It's in the very corner of the city, and it doesn't go anywhere. One of my neighbors complained, and they came and they took them out. And I've been wondering every time I wave at my neighbors while I walk my dog, I think, are they the ones?
Are you the rat? Is it you?
Was it you? And who on this street wants people to be able to speed? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Someone was mildly inconvenienced on their 20 seconds of driving down that little road and needed to get rid of those speed bumps because, God forbid, I can't speed my car down a street in the most American way possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to wrap up this story, at the end of the article, they talk about, well, okay, what is going to be the result of this analysis? There's been a bill introduced into the New York State Legislature called Stop Super Speeders Bill. Not the stops, I guess it's just called the Stop Super Speeders Bill. Anyway, they want to put speed limiters on people who violate speeding this much, which is pretty crazy if you ask me. Pretty cool as well.
Yeah.
And as you guys know, if you listen to my interview with Peter Norton, not a new idea, this speed limiter thing. It was an idea in the 1920s that never happened. And so I guess it's so cool to see it revived 100 years later.
They do it on e-bikes. They could do it on cars, guys. No, that's crazy. I just wonder how that would actually work. It's like, oh, we've caught you. Now we install this thing, kind of like a breathalyzer for someone who had a DUI previously.
I mean, I always find it crazy that we don't, speed restrict cars to like 75 miles an hour just in general off rip. I mean, like the fact that you can take a car that's not even like a track car and be able to take it 120 miles an hour down a street is just insane.
But my freedom. Ethan.
But what if someone's trying to carjack me? I need to go 120.
Yeah.
But what's that whole argument? Have you heard people say that whole argument of what about the Autobahn? There's no speed limit on the Autobahn, and that works. Do you guys have a comeback to that, or have you not?
Most of the Autobahn has speed limits.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
And you can't recklessly drive on the parts that don't have speed limits. They have speed. The funniest thing is that if we wanted an Autobahn-like system, we would have a bunch of remote enforcement with it too. There's a lot of videos of Americans who come back, and they come back with like 8 tickets from Germany because they rented a car and don't follow the road rules like Germans.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, they have a notorious culture for following the rules in Germany, which makes a difference.
Yeah.
Which, I think, what is it? I think they recommend like 130 kilometers per hour on the Autobahn. I think the fastest I've ever been on it is like 150. I was never driving on it. I've never driven on it. But I don't know. I think it's time we actually do put some speed limiters on. Like it's kind of a no-brainer, and it's doable, especially with cars now. They have all the technology inside them already that can do that for the most case. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think there was a bill in California, not even for a speed limiter. It was for a light to come on in the car when you're going past the speed limit, similar to the seatbelt light.
Yeah.
And people are having the same. It's interesting because they're having the same arguments against it that they originally had against seatbelts, which is it's controlling my freedom,
right?
And it's annoying, and whatever the arguments are. But one of the state senators, I guess, who's against this idea, actually represents the district with that Ocean Parkway speeder. And he says 6 tickets is not excessive. However, the data shows that 74% of those who got automated enforcement tickets max out at 2. So 2 is common. So I think 6 is excessive.
That seems excessive. It's wild. See, when you're talking about pushback on things and how our perceptions change once they get implemented, I think in being in New York, the congestion pricing is a great example of that. We've seen the success of it, and actually it's done the things that it's promised to do, but also the fact that people have come around to it after the fact, even drivers, which is crazy. I think it was Miser, maybe he was talking about it. We've had him on the show before. He's a micromobility guy in New York City, and he was saying that traffic looks like it's getting back to higher levels. So it's like, maybe it's time to jack those prices up to what it was supposed to be. Not $9, but whatever, $17.
15, I think.
15, yeah, somewhere around there in the teens. But it is crazy to see these arguments come up over and over and over again. It's always the same talking points. I was doing some research. I'm going to the Netherlands next week and going to some different cities. I'm going to Groningen, which, if you don't know, is in the north of the Netherlands, and it's kind of the starting point of the way we see the Netherlands now, especially with the traffic circulation plan, and how if you're in a car, you kind of have to go out of the city center and kind of go around to different sectors, essentially. And they kind of started that in the 70s. And reading all of the comments, or basically the quotes from that time, from the 70s, the pushback from the business owners, the locals and everything, it's like exactly the same. It's all exactly the same stuff. And then what happens afterwards? People are like, hey, my business didn't close down. Business is actually booming and everything's great. Great idea. Good job. And it's just crazy to see the same things over and over. It's like, how do we get how do we speed run the whole conversation to be like, okay, this has already been done before. This is like a rerun. We know the answer. Let's get it over with.
The problem with that, I've tried even to say that in like a nice way, and people will, even like knowledgeable people will acknowledge that what you're saying is true, but then they'll say, yes, but our town is different for these reasons, or my particular street or even my particular business is different for these reasons. And it's like, it's not though.
How many more examples do you need?
Right,
Like,
exactly.
traffic calming, that stuff won't work here in North America. Oh, they did it in Hoboken. They've had no deaths in like 7 years.
It's the exact same argument that people use against climate change. It's like, okay, but I don't see it, so therefore it's not real.
Yeah.
Right. Quite literally in that exact same boat where it's like all the evidence points against you. But my personal bias is that I can't visualize this working for me. So I'm just going to completely disregard it.
Yeah. I think it comes back to that thing that Aaron said. He was on the podcast a little while ago about how he was talking about the carbon tax, but I guess this is a psychological thing that happens in all sorts of discussions, but essentially, that when you presented people with the facts of the carbon tax, that they'd be more likely to be entrenched in their previous views than if you just didn't present them with all the information to begin with, which is just like, it's weird. I need to look more into that. It scares me, man. Yeah. Anyway.
It comes up. The hardest part about living in a small town is that most studies are from cities, because cities eat, like this speeding survey, right? It's from New York, which is the biggest city in America. And so that's a great way for people to tell you that it won't apply. And I've worked in a number of small towns, and that seems to be the go-to thing, because it's like, 20 years ago, they could have said, well, no one has tried a protected intersection or a bike lane or whatever it was in America. Well, okay, now big cities, like if I bring up San Jose or SF or LA, oh, there was a study in LA that showed that a bike lane improved sales tax. Like, well, that's LA. That's a city of, 3 million. We have 100,000, and it's like, oh, so it's just like even still now, like filtering down. You can tell I've had these conversations even as recently as this week, and it's like, okay, but now it's gotten to the point where like the next biggest town south of us, Ventura, officially voted to close their main street to cars,
right,
forever, because it was doing so well there. And yet, a mere 30 miles north in Santa Barbara, you would think that Santa Barbara was like, what's the city in Marvel movies, Asgard? It's like on a floating disc in space with like nothing, where all the water like falls into space. And I'm like, guys, they just did this in Ventura. Why we have the same economy as them? It's like it's 30 miles away. And it's like, nope, we've got to commission our own $1 million study and then decide not to do it or whatever.
Give that study 3 years too, because
either they demand that you have to have a really long study, and then in the meantime they complain about it, or what I've seen happen is people will demand data preemptively. So this happened with Culver City Move. It happened with in the city of Goleta, they did a road diet, and people want data, the next week. Like the public's like, the businesses are failing, and so the city feels pressured. And so what happened in both those cases is they got data, but it's like 3 or 4 months after the project, and that's not good data. Nothing has adjusted yet, and it doesn't even measure the seasonality of how business works or how traffic works and stuff like that. So,
it's like people will complain in Q1 that their numbers are down when the construction project on a road finished in Q4, and they're complaining about their numbers being down, and they'll blame the road project when it's just how markets work.
Yeah. It's like you build a bike lane in front of a beach snack bar in the fall, and then you look at the winter numbers, like, see, my numbers are down. It's like, yeah, it's winter. What do you mean? Like, yeah, you got to see.
Come on, there are more external factors than a bus lane.
Yeah,
but that's in life in general. Like you mentioned, climate change too. It's like, I think that, and this is hard, right? I don't want to sound high and mighty. I think I forget about this stuff too. It's often really hard to remember how many factors can go into creating a situation. Like even in things I want to agree with, you know what I mean? Like this week I visited a business in front of a plaza downtown that's currently a parking lot, but they're going to remodel it into this beautiful plaza with seating and trees and everything. It's something that I've advocated for a while. And I mentioned it to the owner of the store, which maybe I shouldn't have done, because then I got the earful from her, because her store faces this plaza. And she was like, no, I'm totally for the remodel. Like, I think it would be better for business, but during the remodel, no one's going to be able to see my storefront. And I don't own a business. And I was like, oh, I had not thought of that while I was advocating for this. And I was like, well, hopefully it'll only take like 3 or 4 months. And she's like, 1 week without business could kill this thing, because it's like a little boutique. And I was like, yeah, no, it's like, I understand that. There's lots of factors. There's lots of things going on that I would not normally consider.
Yeah, it's ongoing consequences too. I think that's the thing we need to look at is the big picture. It's something we have seen over the past few years with like the subway upgrade here in Vancouver along Broadway. A lot of the businesses now have less access. It's a lot harder not only to get to the businesses, but less likely to just see them. Like nobody's biking down those corridors now. It's like cut and cover. So there's 2 lanes that are essentially on a bridge suspended over this hole in the ground for many, many blocks. The sidewalks have been literally cut in half. Like, I don't even know what stores are down there. I don't go down there. So it's a matter of like, how do we help those businesses while these things go on?
Exactly.
Vancouver said, no, we're not going to help you. You'll have better business after, which is true. But it's like, will I survive till then?
That sucks.
Who knows?
That's a great way of creating ill will.
Yeah.
That is an incredible way of creating ill will.
Yeah. There's ways to get around that, I think. Actually help. But yeah. Should we move on to the next story here?
Oh, yeah, I think we should.
This is a quick one, but it's kind of a thought provoker, I think. So this is coming out of France. So once known for speeding cars and chaotic parking, Paris now tops a ranking of Europe's most child-friendly cities. Cycling cities. So it's beating Amsterdam and Copenhagen. A study of 36 cities credits Paris's rise to Olympic-driven investments and a 250 million euro plan to build 180 kilometers of bike lanes. So this is incredible. This is something you wouldn't expect, but it seems I think there's a pendulum swinging, hard forward direction to make Paris a more beautiful city, a healthier city. That's obviously worked. And also in Amsterdam and Copenhagen, maybe they've stalled a little bit, which is just what happens. I think there seems to be. Is there like a right wing thing going on in the Netherlands right now? Maybe across Europe in some respect, but I think one of the biggest things they've done to do this is actually the school street. So it's basically like within a certain distance of a school, the very front of a school, you cannot bring your car there. Like they totally shut it down. It's like no cars are here, nothing, which I think is just a huge boost to the confidence for parents when it comes to letting their kids roam free. That is so important. It's something that we do not have in so many cities in North America. If it does exist, it seems to be driven by parents who are very passionate about having safer streets, and it's up to them to actually do that.
Yeah, if anything, in North America, we have the exact opposite of that. I mean, we quite literally make our schools park and learns.
Yeah, like literally. It's crazy.
Park and learns. I love that.
Yeah, like
I don't love it. I like the name.
Isn't there a school somewhere in the United States that's literally like within a cloverleaf interchange? It's like encircled by a turnoff on a highway.
Oof.
Right? And it's like the complete antithesis to what you see in Europe, where like there's that famous one in Utrecht where they literally built a bike lane on top of a school. Like it's a different world. It's a different world. But I just wanted to give praise to Paris. There's just this looping video I have here from one of the clips I had from when I was in Paris, and it like it's changed since then. This was almost a year ago that I was there. I was there right before the Olympics last year, and for them I want to see what progress they've made in 12 months. I'm sure it's something more, but for them to hit the top of this list, which it doesn't matter who it came from. I don't think it matters that much because like it's real. It's real. What's going on there? It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, just look at this streetscape if you can see it on the visual end. If you're watching this on YouTube, I mean, it's wonderful. It's very pleasant to go down. You can see a lot of street trees. It's built at a very human scale, but Paris has done a really good job with their cycling infrastructure over the past decade. I mean, they've really kind of fully committed to building it out in any way that they could possibly do, whether it's protected bikeway or protected bike lanes, or even just like greenways that they've done as well too.
Yeah. Yeah, they make a big difference.
Bringing me to a question I have for you guys, because I've been reading about these school streets as well, and I think often some of these great ideas are very easy to import, right? Like the idea that a bike lane should be physically separated from cars moving above a certain speed. Great, we have tons of road space in America, let's do it. The school streets, though, what do you think is the translatable idea or the lesson learned that we can import? Because looking at a lot of them, the schools in Paris are in these dense, neighborhoods where the streets that they're on are quite narrow and they're surrounded by apartment buildings, whereas most elementary schools in America are sometimes even on like a major road, or even if they're on a neighborhood street, there's houses along that street. So how do you like, we're even banning cars from it might seem like overkill because the street's actually quite wide and is used for other things or whatever. So what do you think is the idea we can take from school streets in Paris?
Yeah, dude, that's a great question.
That
It's
is.
not
is-
translatable based on the pictures I've seen. I'm like, it just doesn't work the same way.
No.
In most neighborhoods, no, that just would not work.
No,
Yeah.
no. Yeah, this isn't something you can like just copy paste
Like,
to most North American
you can in
neighborhoods.
some spots. Like,
So-
there's
yeah.
a school right down the street from me. I'm pretty sure they could probably implement that. It's right on a 2-lane street that could easily handle it being closed, at least temporarily during school hours. But
Yeah, I think this is something that you can start with when it comes to what's just right in front of your school to begin with. Like, let's not just make a giant parking lot filled with idling cars waiting to pick up kids. Like, that's a good start, just for the sake of the air quality for the children. But like, it's a systemic issue. It's what we talk about. Like, when I talk about bike lanes, we all know this. Like, a bike route, wherever you're going, is only as good as the weakest link. And that's like a systemic issue in a lot of places. And I'm fortunate enough to live in a place that's relatively good. But yeah, I think there's places here in my city that actually could just like simply do what they've done in Paris, and it'd be a great win. I think so. Not everywhere, but
I think a lot of North American cities could implement it in more urban areas.
Yeah.
Of course, it would be the problem of implementing it in suburban areas. But there are a lot of schools in suburban areas that are surrounded by mainly low-density residential. And while they
Mhm.
do have that parking there, in a lot of cases, you could traffic calm a lot of these streets and add improved bike parking at the schools and at least change some of the modal share over to more cycling ridership.
Mhm.
Yeah, I actually think one of the only good things to come out of post-war planning, which is not something you'll hear me praise often, but it actually started under FDR when they started doing these planned neighborhoods, and they made them non-mixed use, right? Which is a big sad thing. And that's when they invented arterial roads and all that kind of stuff, and cul-de-sacs, which are bad for walkability. But if you look at those original plans, they would try and put the school in the middle of the neighborhood as far from the arterial streets as possible. And so the neighborhood wasn't mixed use, and you couldn't walk to anything from the school other than houses. But you can look, if you look at neighborhoods from the 50s, it actually is kind of nice where the schools are placed. Looking back, like I said, it's kind of boring. But what we're doing now, a lot of, at least in the state of California, we have a safe routes to school plan that cities can make. And then if they have a safe routes to school plan, they can then apply to grants. So it's actually a very pertinent subject because I'm working on a safe routes to school plan now for my company. We got contracted with a mid-sized city in Southern California. So we're looking at all 20-something elementary schools in the city limits, and we're going to do a walk audit where we walk with parents and kids to and from school. We're going to do a crash analysis and then figure out what can be done to make those routes that kids are taking to school safer. Now, the amount of change that the city wants is not going to be as much as what Paris is doing, right? With like no cars on the street facing the school, but it could be raised intersections or raised crosswalks or speed bumps or bike lanes. So it's still a huge improvement, and it's data driven, which is nice too. And yeah, it's like we were talking about NIMBYs and stuff earlier. How could people argue, like at the most basic level, like a safe routes to school plan seems like something, it's like we're trying to have fewer kids die on their way to school. Like, can you argue with this? I don't think
you can. Sometimes you can win, though. Sometimes you won't. Like, again, not to always talk about the Netherlands. It's always bringing it back up, but like that's what drove their change, was just stop killing the kids.
Yeah.
And it's something like I'm sure you could find plenty of people who will go, well, what about, my commute to work? What about the economy and stuff like that? And of course, that's like, it's all bunk. Like, that's nonsense. These things aren't going to change that much for the worse, I don't think. So yeah. I don't know. I'm sure that you could find somebody who's going to argue against keeping kids safe, which is sad.
For our regular listeners, I will keep them updated because the project's supposed to get really kick off in the coming months, and I'm going to be at meetings, at public meetings and stuff. And I think I'll check what I can talk about. But if I can, I will definitely update you guys if anyone comes out to argue with keeping the kids safe.
I can't wait to hear it. One last thing on this topic here. So Antwerp, Brussels, and Lyon ranked high. Cities like Marseille, Rome, and Sofia ranked lowest. And no city earned an A grade. So advocates say reducing pollution and creating safe streets safe streets for kids to enjoy. They need blah, 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 blah. Anyway, doesn't matter.
You know what the metrics are? Like, why didn't anyone get an A?
Yeah, that's
I didn't say why. No. But whatever their metrics were was essentially just the study highlighted the importance of child mobility as children are vulnerable road users and less active than before. So it was like, are kids moving by themselves? That was kind of, I think, the
this
main
was like an
thing they were going off.
independence. I wonder if they use safety data too, is really what I'm wondering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is what it is. But next story here, Ethan, go ahead.
Yes. So we've been seeing quite a bit of work going on in the city of Seattle when it comes to its public transportation. And recently, one of the cities to the east of Seattle has just gotten a little extension to the light rail, or just got a little connection to the light rail network. There was actually just this past Saturday the opening of the Redmond extension to the Seattle link. And that added on just 2 little stations. I'll show you them right here on the little project map that they got going on here. There we go. And if you can see, it's just 2 little stations. We got Marymoor Village and downtown Redmond. And that's how it's just, I believe, about a 2.5 mile long extension to the Link Light Rail. But this is actually a pretty important small extension. It also preempts the future connection to Seattle on this eastern side line. Later this year, we will be getting an extension over the lake to downtown Seattle from both Bellevue and Redmond. And this connection right here, though, is actually pretty important because Redmond has actually been growing as a small little suburban city of Seattle. They've been doing a lot of development, especially around downtown Redmond. It was actually a pretty small city up until recently. It's been seeing a lot of that dense mixed-use walkable development, especially in the core of the city, and having this little light rail connection, especially to bigger areas of employment like Bellevue and soon to be Seattle, is going to be really key for connecting this region with more transit. But it's always nice to see a little transit extension go on in any North American city. And it's been kind of a busy year already with transit extensions in North America. We actually do have quite a few more to come.
So do you think Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just curious where this is in Seattle. I'm trying to picture it in my head.
It's if you go to the northeast of Seattle, you'll see it. I'll see if I can pull it up on maps here.
And I was wondering if you know if the new light rail across the lake will be competitive in terms of time. I don't know what traffic is like in Seattle. And
on the I-90 bridge, traffic is near standstill during rush hour. So it is. It's going to be absolutely massive. So at the moment, Google is not showing the new extension on their maps, but I'll just show you where it is in terms of like relation to Seattle. So this is Redmond right here. And I'll zoom in on downtown Redmond. The new station you can actually see on maps is like right here.
Oh, that's big.
It's happening.
You can kind of see that there has been a lot of development. Of course, there's still a lot of parking down here. But like you can see that a lot of this is actually infill development here, and there's quite a surprising amount of trail connections for cycling in the area too. I believe this also connects with Rapid Ride as well too, if I'm not mistaken. But if we zoom out to show the entire area, we've got Redmond up over here, we've got Bellevue down here, and we've got Seattle over here. So soon enough, this Line 2 is going to be extended later this year to basically wrap around over onto Mercer Island. I think it'll have a stop on Mercer Island. Wrap up over I-90. I think it kind of cuts through some of the neighborhood over here rather than going up I-90. And then it connects with Line 1 over in downtown.
Wow. A station on Mercer Island, much to Bill Gates' chagrin, I'm sure.
Very much.
Whose house, I believe, is hidden on Google Maps.
Is that the reference?
I believe it is.
Is that where he lives?
Yes. And yes. I remember there was some, I don't quote me on this, but I heard that his house is hidden. Like they put fake trees over it, so you can't.
Or sometimes they just blur it, right? On Google
blurred
Maps.
or something.
Yeah, I could imagine it would be either one.
You can get it blurred even
But
anywhere.
you know, the Streisand effect.
And you
Yeah.
see there
you
next
know.
to where it says Beaumont, they got a what is it? A freeway cap. One of the only ones that I've ever really seen. Yeah, there you go. Where it's like
Yeah,
a
here
park.
it is.
Okay. There's one in San Francisco, the Tunnel Tops Park, that I visited last time I was there. It was really nice. It basically reconnected the Presidio to the waterfront and the beaches.
Right.
They've really done a good job there.
But this one seems weird because it's like not near anything.
There's a parking lot. You can connect the parking lot to someone's house.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like a wildlife connection.
There's a little. It's like, not a wildlife connection.
It's like downtown LA there's been advocates trying to do this for 60 years. And meanwhile, in Mercer Island, there's this park that connects nothing to like it must have cost a lot to do this.
Yeah, there's no way it didn't. I mean, it's just like it literally just connects a park to just some suburban neighborhoods.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not against it. It just seems like a choice.
It is most definitely a choice. There's some interesting places that have freeway caps that you wouldn't expect. Like Phoenix, Arizona has some in their downtown.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's really cool to see this massive light rail project kind of, get some returns out in Seattle. It's been a long time coming. There's been a lot of delays with the project, mainly with securing funding. But yeah, I mean, once this gets over Lake Washington, I mean, it's going to be huge for ridership in Seattle.
And what's cool is that they're building their system, and correct me if I'm wrong, you probably know more about it, but there are like 3 pieces started independently that are going to connect, right? Like they didn't start with one node and build out.
Yeah, I mean they kind of did with the one line, but line 2 is actually going to connect in with the rest of the system. So it'll be kind of that was the original plan, but there was some delay with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm actually seeing it right now on maps. You can actually see where they're actually going to be, because this is, I don't know if you know this is a floating bridge.
Yes. Yeah, it's like a pontoon bridge.
It is the first pontoon bridge carrying light rail in the world.
What?
Wow.
You can see it on maps here, the 2 tracks, and I'm pretty sure you can actually see it on Street View.
Cool.
But I believe they just began testing on this trackage here.
Is it a pontoon bridge because of cost, or because the tide goes up and down, or just because it could be?
I think it was. I'm not too certain with why they did it. I'm almost 100% certain it had to do with cost management.
Yeah.
Because there's not any big ships going through here, and it's quite a long span.
Where is that?
I guess they were inspired by like the Siege of Malta or something. Back in the day.
I guess so. Oh, there's actually more freeway cap. I didn't even know.
Once again,
a lot of freeway cap.
Very cool, but not in like the most essential. Oh, and there's a parking lot on a freeway cap. Look at that. And a tennis court.
There's tennis courts.
Is this an overpass on a freeway cap?
Wait, what is that?
This does not seem at grade.
Is that paintball? What is that?
That's not at grade. That's a bridge thing.
That is a bridge on a freeway cap.
There's a bridge over top of a freeway cap.
Wow. Well, this is the and stuff of Radio Free Urbanism.
This really is the and stuff.
We should do
weird,
a segment.
Like ventilation things.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, is that a paintball field? And I thought, no, those are ventilation caps or something.
Oh, yeah. I think you need at least one ventilation station like every 500 feet, if I'm not mistaken, when it comes to this. But
I'm glad they
can see the light rail going through I-90. You can see the station on Mercer Island.
Oh, yeah, there you go. And look, are they building another freeway cap there along that bridge?
It wouldn't shock me.
How does Mercer right there? Yeah. What the heck?
Yeah. That is
a lot of money on Mercer.
Wow.
There must be.
See all these people? Cool. They got these huge properties on the water with their giant docks and giant pools and tennis courts in their backyard. This guy's got pickleball court in his backyard. 4 of them.
This guy does have pickleball. These people have a pool in Washington. You know, I know it's an apartment complex, but a pool in Washington is definitely
a pool that's probably mostly in the shade most of the time.
In Washington,
you can pay to heat your pool. These guys, they got too much money.
They do.
I mean, I mean, I can't. You know, I would do the same. Probably, maybe not. I don't know. Who knows? It's hard to say. It's easy to be like a armchair billionaire. Talk about what you might do with your money or not do with your money.
I would not buy a boat because having $1 billion would not get rid of my seasickness. Unless,
but you could invent something to get rid of it.
You could get a boat so big you don't even feel waves. So
I mean, I've been on 1,000, well, no more. I've been on a 1,200 person cruise ship. I still felt the waves when we were in the Gulf of Alaska. Oh my goodness.
Poor guy.
That was so bad.
Have you tried virtual reality?
No, I've never.
Okay,
never
you probably get sick too doing that.
Yeah. No, I can't even go on like swing. Like I've one of the craziest things that happened when I was a kid. Okay, you know where the park is in San Francisco? What's the park called? In Dolores Park.
Yeah.
So they have a swing set there, and as a kid I was way more nauseous all the time than I am now. Motion sick. So anyway, I laid down on the swing, and I did that thing where you twist yourself up with the chain, until it goes all the way down your back, and then I let go. I must have been trying to think what summer it was, like fifth grade. I think I was 7 or 8. Anyway, I started spinning around. As I was spinning, I started to throw up in a circle on top of all the kids around me.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh my God, just a puke sprinkler.
Yeah, so that's my memory of the park there. So yeah, I've avoided.
Great memories of Dolores Park.
Yeah, I had great
Good
pizza.
times.
But
okay, this is the and stuff. We're getting into it here, guys. You can tell we don't have a lot of topics that we're really eager to talk about. But in San Francisco, this is something. The first time I went there, I think, was back in 2015, maybe, or 2016. Anyway, around there. Maybe it's 2014. And they have this street meat. It's basically a hot dog that they wrap with bacon, and they cook it like on just like an aluminum. I don't know if it's aluminum steel pan or something.
Like after sports events.
I'm talking like late night, like walking down in the Mission District. Have you guys seen that anywhere else?
Yeah.
It's very much a West Coast thing.
Okay, yeah. I've never seen it anywhere else. But
you'll usually see everybody with like basically just little flat top grills.
Yeah.
Out at like usually after a sporting event, something like that. It's very much a West Coast thing. I haven't seen them too much on the East Coast, but
I'm going to bring that up here into a news story, guys, because we're talking about street vending food. So something that's really interesting, and when I first went down to LA for my job, I saw it way more, is that there are people, I mean, we call it street vending, which makes you think of like a little cart, but there's everything from a little cart to like a full like 3 tents with like almost a restaurant kitchen that people just stick on the sidewalk. And usually it's immigrants, Latino immigrants, and they're making all kinds of Mexican food or different things, or these types of hot dogs that you mentioned. And it's causing a lot of controversy, at least where I live. And there's only, because I live in a small town, so I've only really seen 3 or 4 of these guys set up. But yeah, people are really angry about the street vending because they say that it takes away from restaurant business, which I think doesn't make sense. Because I think if you're in the market for a taco from the street, you weren't going to go to a restaurant where it's twice as expensive. But anyway, so I decided to troll the NIMBYs, which is a little hobby of mine. Because, though these days it seems that many of the street vendors are Latino, it's been a thing that immigrants have done in America for a long time, regardless of where they're from. My ancestors, in fact, one of my great-grandfathers was a street vendor in LA who sold oranges, that he would buy like the bad-looking oranges directly from the farms and then go into LA and sell them off of a cart. So anyway, I went on Nextdoor, and there were all these, Nextdoor.com, and there were all these text chains about how much they hate the street vendors, and it was, let me just say, the racism was kind of right there under the surface. So I found like 4 pictures from like 1890 New York of like Polish people like street vending fish and stuff. And I posted the pictures as though they were like the street vendors that people were complaining about now. I was like, look at these people selling fish.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like there's like horses in the background and stuff. And oh my God, it went either people like private, like DM me. They're like, you have won Nextdoor today, my friend. But some people took it seriously. They were like old people. They're like, which corner was this on? I don't like, no, the guy in this picture died like probably
before you were
years
born.
ago.
Yeah. Did you add any clarification, or you just dropped it? You dropped. You're like, I'm out.
No clarification. It got taken down for inappropriate content, and then I disputed it because I said I didn't say anything inappropriate. I just said, look at these street vendors. Who are they? Where'd they come from? They were like, you know what, you're right. So they had to put it back up.
You got the admins to admit they're wrong. This is insane.
The admins had to.
You're
because I didn't use any bad language. I didn't insult anybody. I was just, I was just having
just
a time.
trolling. Just trolling.
Trolling.
They're gonna have to update their terms and conditions. No trolling.
It's a mild amount of trolling. Yeah.
Yeah,
hilarious.
I'll find that. If you join our Discord, I will find my post and I will put it in there.
Yeah. By the way, you can join our Discord by joining our Patreon for just how much is it a month, guys?
$1.
Just $1. As little as $1 a month. You get perks.
$1, yeah.
The price of a bacon-wrapped hot dog in San Francisco, probably.
Exactly. Access to the live show and our Discord, which is a lot of fun.
You think it's only $1 for a bacon-wrapped hot dog?
I don't know, because I don't eat bacon. I keep kosher.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, I'll tell you right now. At least in Portland, they were trying to sell me them for $8. So
$8?
$8.
Oh my God, the inflation has gone through the roof. That is brutal. Oh my God.
Brutal.
Yeah,
okay.
It's the same for like a Seattle dog too. I mean, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So, try to go to Subway for a $5 foot long.
I do have a couple. I have a couple quick hit stories, Nick, if you want
to. Sure. Yeah, we got one listener mail, but yeah, do those first.
So, okay, first of all, Ethan was talking about exciting transit extensions opening in the U.S. this year. We have one in Minneapolis, a city I've been to twice, a pretty nice place. But it is a BRT, which is basically a light rail without the rails, if I'm allowed to say that. I had a friend who listens to the podcast who told me he used to live a few blocks from there, and so he's pretty excited. He's going to go out there and maybe film it, and we can show the footage. But it is called the B Line, I believe. And what's kind of cool, I guess, about the metro there, the metro from Minneapolis and St. Paul, is that it's one organization that's in charge of that region, which is Cross County, which is pretty cool because out here in California, we have way too many transit agencies, in my opinion. If you look at the Bay Area, for instance. And so it's kind of cool that they get to have this big regional outlook. And I guess it's also Trump's birthday, so maybe he'll show up for his birthday present. So all the transit nerds will be celebrating that. Another story, a quick hit I have, is a few episodes ago we talked about Should America Sprawl, the New York Times article. And we all thought that the obvious answer was no. But Chuck Marohn, the guy who founded Strong Towns, actually decided to write a lengthy article explaining why the answer is no, which you can check out on the Strong Towns website. And if you're familiar with Strong Towns, he makes all the arguments you probably heard before about how sprawl can't sustain itself long term. But if you're not, it's a pretty good read.
Definitely check that out.
Yeah.
So I can post that. And then, an answer to a question from the last episode in the podcast: the weird peak hour bike lanes. So I visited the peak hour bike lane. I'm going to show you guys the city's map. And this will be my last little quick hit story here. I'll share the whole window, because why not? So, infinite podcast. Okay. There you go. So this is the city's GIS map of bike lanes. You can see they're here. And then you can see here, there's this extra weird category, peak hour, in brown, because it's the color of poo, because it's a stupid idea.
Very appropriate, yeah.
Yeah. What's weird about this category is you don't know if it's class 1, 2, or 3, because it's a different color. But so yeah, we have this one on this one-way street, which goes in this direction. Nick is shaking his head for those who are not watching. And then little did I know, we have one over here that's like 2 blocks long. I guess they're on either side of the street. So it turns out that, and then look at this, there's this tiny weird segment of them here outside of a school. So talk about school streets. So of course the bike lanes, which are, I guess, class 2, fade away in front of the school and become peak hour. So kind of a weird thing to do. But it turns out that they were the brainchild of our former micromobility guy, whose name was Rob Dayton, who left the city a few years ago under weird circumstances. But this was kind of his weird compromise idea. And I found an original article from like 2016 where he talked about it. The other interesting thing about this map here is that State Street, which is now closed to cars, you can see is this big thick line with all this bike parking. And of course, that's where a bunch of people are trying to ban bikes or bring back cars, which is really a shame. But because bike master plans are not law, they're just planning documents, it means that any future city council can go directly against all of the outreach and work that was done to put together the bike master plan, which is something that annoys me greatly. But anyway, that was a bit of a
yeah.
So you
It's real
visited
good.
them? Did you go to some of these places to check it out?
Yeah, I went to.
There's a door zone bike lane, and what does that mean? Like the bike lane doesn't exist for a certain portion of the day?
Yeah, and I was there during the time it wasn't supposed to exist. But yeah, I confirmed it's still there. The signage is there, and then I looked for parallel ones because all the streets downtown were made one way decades ago, back when it was sort of popular to what I think of it as channelizing our downtowns, like treating them like we just need to get cars through here. And it was very popular to make downtowns one-way streets. I'm sure many of our viewers have seen that trend. So anyway, this one is only in this direction. So I don't know what the point of it is. And now 3 blocks here, we have a car-free street, which is great for biking on. So that's probably why it's not even enforced. But yeah, this street goes the other way, and there is not a bike lane there. And that's sort of the follow-up to that. And then you can see how the class 1s, to really prove
is
the
class
point
1 separated?
Yeah, class 1 is a 2-way cycle path that is not on the road.
Okay.
And you can see that we have, like many coastal cities, we have this one, which is really for leisure. It happened to be on my commute route at one point, though, so I actually used it. But it's also crowded with people jogging and renting those Surreys where it's like a 4-person bike car who, they want to see the beach. But it's pretty extensive. It goes all the way out over to here. Although this one does not have a yellow line painted on it, so it looks like a sidewalk. But you can actually see that none of them are connected, right? So there's another big one here, which was built a few years ago. And so it's not really a true network. And I think what's really interesting looking at this map, for those who are just listening, is that you have all these bike lanes on this grid that don't really connect to each other, at least not of the same type. And if you close your eyes for a second and think, if this was the map of the roads in the city, or the paved roads, this would be insane, right? You have these like really long streets where you wouldn't be able to like turn and go somewhere else. But for cars, we don't think of it that way, But for bikes, that's what it's like biking in the city, right? Like there's certain routes that are great if you're going in a big straight line, but there are other routes that like if you're using this great bike lane here to go downtown, and then there's just this random gap.
This is a map of what the opposite should be, in a sense, right? Like the bike should have, way through basically everywhere, and the car should have to go around if we want to make our cities healthier, safer, and just better places to be and easier to actually get around, even if you are in a car.
Right.
Yeah, it's just kind of crazy how even like smaller cities are still like, yeah, we have like 1 or 2 good protected bike paths, but it's like, can we like actually get a network? It's not that hard.
Yeah, we have one class.
It's not that hard.
It's not hard. You just have to
sacrifice.
Yeah.
You could sacrifice like 150 parking spots throughout the entire city, spend a few $1 million on concrete, and you have a great bike network.
The good news is one of the next projects on the docket is this Cliff Drive here. So you can see there's this fantastic class 1 that's fully separated. Right. They're going to continue it all the way along Cliff Drive to this green area, which is Santa Barbara City College, which has a pretty big student population. And then it's going to come down the hill and just not quite connect with this one, which is driving me insane, but it's going to be connected with the class 2 because they don't want to get rid of the parking spots. And you will be able to bike across the campus. So it'll almost connect. And then what's going to be really cool about that is you're going to now be able to bike from this point where my mouse is here on the eastern edge of the city all the way like this, outside city limits, and then all the way along this creek, Atascadero Creek, all the way to UCSB on a class 1 bike path, which will be 15 miles of uninterrupted bike path, which is pretty cool.
That's crazy. Yeah, that'll be nice.
Great.
Yeah, we can complain all day long. It's just great to see that there's actual movement in the right direction in most cities. Toronto seems to be the Doug Ford, the premier, wants to keep going backwards. It's insane, but like most places, it's getting better. I've complained about Vancouver, but like there's still progress being made here too. So it's fantastic. But the one thing I do have, this might be a tiny little micro wug mug, what grinds my gears, is this whole class system. It makes no sense to me. I'm sharing my screen here. So class 1, you're like, that's got to be tops, right? Yeah. Multi-use path, 2-directional. Class 2, that's just a painted lane. And then you can have it buffered, which is nice. Then class 3 is just a street. It's worse. But class 4, guys, this is like completely separated, isn't it? Like protected and separated from.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense to me.
So I learned the reason that happened, I guess, is in America, we were doing class 1, 2, and 3 first. And then class 4 was sort of brought over from Europe, and they couldn't call it class 0. So they were calling it class 4.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not just reorganize everything?
They could have.
Because then every planning document would be like confusing. Because would you tell people like, oh, it's pre 2017 class 1 or post 2017 class 1? The one thing I wanted to show you guys about this time thing is the amount of signage it requires. One of the things I learned about in the Netherlands is streets should make sense without insane amounts of signage. And the best signage is like pictograms, right? Of like a kid on a bike. And that's it.
So I'm going to read this right now. So 90 minutes parking, this block, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., except Sundays. Bike lane, towaway, no stopping, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., weekdays only. No parking, this block, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., Tuesday, street sweeping.
Yeah.
You got to read 4 signs to figure out what the heck you're...
4 signs, and we are trying to be... Santa Barbara is supposed to be this very aesthetic city, and you have these glaring signs all over the place.
That's brutal.
But, yeah. So that's the story there. And now I suppose we can move on to the listener mail.
Yeah, we got one listener mail here. This is from Willie in our Discord. Ethan, would you like to read this one here?
Yes, of course. Willie said to us, bike to work day. Does it seem dumb/useless to promote a single day for biking to work? Or is it beneficial in the sense of encouraging people to try it, in the hopes of getting them to do it regularly, and maybe also getting people to push for improved cycling infrastructure?
Yeah, it's I think exactly what he said there. He kind of answered the question. It's about giving people the opportunity to just experience it, just try it once. You know, I think here in BC, the Go By Bike Week, we have 3 of them throughout the year. There's like a World Go By Bike Day or whatever, but I think we have one coming up the end of May into June. So I think it's the 31st to the 6th. And it's something, I mean, I participate in, I guess. Even before I wasn't cycling to work every day, if I was like taking my scooter or my car, I would bike that week, which is like, you know, I'm already kind of in the game. But I've seen that translate to even my colleagues, not just for the fact that I kind of sometimes be a loud voice about it. Just being like, hey, guys, it's Go By Bike Week. Like, try it one day. And have had colleagues try it, but also have converted some colleagues to at least commuting on either an electric scooter or their bikes way more often just by setting an example. So it can spread. It can spread. And maybe I'm a more vocal person than most people are, but just being an example of what's possible is fantastic. But yeah, just getting people in the door, getting their foot on the pedal, you might say, just once can turn people onto it.
Yeah, I mean, I used to bike commute to work all the time, and it was definitely something that I don't know if I directly influenced anybody to cycle to work ever when I was biking to work, but it definitely was a conversation starter about how you don't have to drive everywhere to work every day. My current situation, I would never bike to work just because it is a 250-foot elevation gain over 3 miles, but I have transit for that. But I could probably bike home from work one of these days, and I probably will, which will be a fun event. I'll let everyone know about that. But yeah, having these events are good things. I mean, it doesn't really cost anything to do them. It can encourage someone to try cycling to work, and yeah, it just seems like it's minimal effort for maybe a minimal gain.
It's a reminder. It's the same with the car free day. Like, just try experiencing the world without a car, because some people can't afford it, can't drive for many different reasons, and just to see it from that perspective is a really good mental shift.
Do I think enough people participate? Result.
Yeah, I don't think enough people participate in these things, but we got to start somewhere.
There's also safety in numbers, and also not wanting to stand out. Like, most people don't want to try something by themselves. I mean, I'm working on a friend of mine right now, because he loves urbanism even, but he's just from a part of LA where he never even really learned to ride a bike. And so I'm slowly working on it. But yeah, I'll
So he's an actor, is that what you're saying?
No, he's not. But everyone in LA thinks they're an actor. But no, I'm it's ridiculous. Like, oh my gosh, everyone's working on a project. But if you I don't know, I don't want to come across as obnoxious, but sometimes I'll throw in little comments about how when people are like, oh, the traffic today is going to be nuts because of the football game, I'll be like, oh, not for me. Like I'll just like kind of remind people that I don't have to deal with that stuff, or whatever.
It's truly the most righteous, smug way that you could ever just do it.
And he sounded like he was about to say something
bad when I
really.
do it, but also at the same time,
no, it's like a bike
feeling.
talk. Great radio show and podcast I listen to. I haven't heard the bit in a while, but they used to do this bit where they'd be like, oh, we got to check on the traffic, and then it'd be like some guy in New York. He's like, hey, how's the traffic? He's like, it's pretty backed up, but I'm on a bike, so who cares? Like,
right.
That's what it is.
And then just wait until everyone switches to biking. You actually get bike traffic, like I saw in Amsterdam, where you have like 100 people piled up on their bikes not physically piled up. I mean, they're all stopped. But I want to answer this guy's question with a research paper, because that is my that's how I do things.
You're gonna read
I remember
it all
I
out
saw
right now?
Published a few months ago, someone posted a paper about changing people from cars to other modes of transit. And there were a study that was posted. I think I found it because I couldn't find the post, but I actually found 2 studies that basically say the same thing, which is that it's very, very difficult to get people to change the mode by which they travel. The best way to have it happen is 2 things, according to these studies. Either a major life event like moving or having a baby or getting married or something, or an external life event like a freeway being closed for a week for repairs. So they looked at like campaigns to get people to bike or to take transit, or even new transit opening. And so we were talking about transit extensions on today's show. So like just the fact that a transit extension opens is actually not great at getting people to then take that transit, because people are very comfortable in what they do. I mean, I'm very comfortable in what I do, right? Like it's hard to just change even what you eat for breakfast. So what they found is that the majority of people who switched their mode share like had to for some reason. They were forced to, or they were given some big incentive to, like they were paid to or something. And so the implication of the study, the study I'm looking at is called Understanding How and Why Travel Mode Changes, Analysis of Longitudinal Qualitative Interviews. So you know it's important because it has big words in it. It's from 2024. The implication section, which I love that they have an implication section below the results section. They say future interventions using mechanisms that reduce access to, reduce reliability of, or increase the financial cost of car use may facilitate modal shift to walking, cycling, and public transportation when implemented in contexts where alternative travel modes are available and acceptable. So what does that mean in plain English? They're saying they want to reduce the reliability of or increase the financial cost of car use. That's actually will have the most effect on getting people to mode shift, not necessarily creating high quality walking, cycling, and public transport, which is very important.
What you're saying is a Pigouvian tax, like the carbon tax.
It's crazy
like
how
having
the sticks
something
work.
like in New York, congestion pricing. It works.
Yep.
Anyway.
So unfortunately for those of us who just advocate for Class 4 bike lanes, we're also going to have to secretly advocate, just as the 15-minute city conspiracy theorists are accusing us of doing. We are actually going to have to advocate for driving to be made more difficult, or at least interrupted, at least to the point where there's some kind of road work going on, or modal filters or something that just interrupt people's journeys and get them to try something else.
The priority should not be how do we get these automobiles from point A to point B as directly as possible. It should be how do we get them around safely for everyone and actually moving people. Yeah. But I think the important part there is actually having the infrastructure in place so that people can and will make those switches too. Because if it's not there, like, what are you going to do?
That's also true.
Yeah. Anyway, this is it's been a fun show. Thank you everybody for listening. Ethan, do you want to wrap us up here?
Yeah. Thanks everybody for tuning into the live or to the show today. You can also tune into this show live for just how much, Nick? Or how would you do that? For $1? But how?
$1.
How would we
on
do
Patreon.
that? On Patreon? That's right. If you join our Patreon for just $1, you can tune into our show live whenever we're recording. You can also get early access to the show as soon as we're done recording it. And on top of that, you get access to our wonderful Discord. And you also get the opportunity to support this wonderful show. But thank you so much for everybody for tuning in, for watching as well, too. Nick, where can the good people find you?
I'm on YouTube, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Nick the Door Sully. How about yourself?
I'm on those same things at Sullyville.
And Ethan.
You can find me at Climate in Transit on pretty much every platform, and I'll have a video coming out this Friday, so stay tuned for that one.
Sweet.
Folks, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Radio Free Urbanism, and as always, train good, car bad.
2 wheels good.
2 feet fantastic.
Oh!
Oh!